Hi, friends. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Hello APGD, a neighborhood podcast about the Audubon Park Garden District in Orlando, Florida. I'm your host, Michael Lothrop, and today we'll be speaking with Tony Villalobos and Pablo Sierra of Lobos Coffee Roasters at 3000 Corinne Drive. If you can't make it to their coffee house, you can visit them online at loboscoffeeroasters.com or on Facebook and Instagram. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, or if you'd like to be a sponsor, please feel free to message me on Instagram at HelloAPGDPod. Thank you for listening. This episode is brought to you in part by Trevor Brown, Audubon Park resident and trusted Central Florida realtor with Fannie Hellman & Associates, proudly serving their clients for over 40 years. For listings, market trends, helpful home buyer and seller tips, email directly to trevor@fanniehellman.com or find him on Instagram at Trevor Brown Realtor. And with me today is Tony Villalobos and Pablo Sierra of Lobos Coffee Roasters. Welcome, guys.
Hi. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. I hope I didn't butcher your last name. Can you say it? You say it so well.
No worries. It's Tony Villalobos. Tony is actually my nickname. It comes from Antonio. My first name is actually Roran, and I'm Junior. So there's two of us out there.
Okay.
So if you see an older gentleman that just looks like me, I'm going to look like him in about 20 years.
So Roran Sr. lives in the area as well?
He lives down in Miami with my mom and my sister.
Cool.
So that's kind of where we grew up.
And you guys met in Miami as teenagers, is that right?
We did. We met at a what we call CAP, or Civil Air Patrol, kind of a offshoot of JROTC, and we became close friends really quickly. We found out that we actually lived blocks away from each other.
Wow.
We actually went to different high schools, believe it or not, and my closest friends are actually from that Civil Air Patrol organization. I keep in touch with them today, and they're like my closest friend. It's a fortuitous and a very great organization that we were able to meet up at.
So you did not meet in high school, but you lived in a similar area but different high schools. I actually have a friend, similar story, that we didn't meet until our 20s, maybe 30s, and he lived a street behind me. But since he went to a different high school, we never met, and it's just amazing all the similar experiences that we had, and yet like our paths never crossed until they did, and as you say, fortuitously.
Yes. I actually went to a magnet program down in Miami for hospitality, where I was technically supposed to go to high school, was supposed to be with Pablo, but I ended up in that magnet program. But again, fortuitously, we found each other at CAP, and we became friends, best friends, and we're here now to this day.
That's amazing. And you have Panamanian roots. We were just talking a little bit. My wife also grew up in Panama, moved here when she was a teenager. So you are the second Panamanian citizen that I've had on the podcast officially. So,
very nice.
Yeah.
I love my country. I love to go back and visit. Unfortunately, I left when I was young, so I'm a bit of a tourist now. But we still have family over there, close ties to the country and to the land. My family and my grandmother, particularly from my father's side, has a coffee farm. She's no longer with us, so it's in the family. So that's kind of where the roots of the whole idea, where we started off with in coffee and in that coffee world. It really didn't develop until later on in life, the coffee passion. But that's kind of where it started. We love to go visit. We love to go back. It's a beautiful place. We actually went for one of our birthdays before the pandemic, and I took Pablo for the first time.
Wow.
And we ended up going, we have a very good, my cousin pretty much, he lives in the city, and he ended up taking us to San Blas. And what an amazing trip. I had my sister, my brother-in-law, Pablo, his wife, Alex, his wife. It was just a nice group to go, and it was just a part of the country I never visited. Glad that I had my friends and family around me. It was just an amazing trip. So if you've never been, definitely recommend to go.
Yeah.
Just in Panama in general. Yeah.
I have been once, and we were unfortunately there for a hospital visit, so we really just stayed in the city. We didn't get to travel too much outside of the city. So what area did you grow up in? Or like were you when you were younger?
So funny story is that we my family, my direct family, we grew up in a region called David Chiriqui. And that's kind of saying the breadbasket of our country in Panama. Kind of saying like, oh, you're from California. But back in the day, and even still now, baseball is very, very popular over there. And when I was a kid, the pressure of playing baseball and growing up in that atmosphere. But there was always a rivalry between, sections of the country, the city, Las Tablas, David Chiriqui, all these wonderful places that when I grew up and I started going into hospitality, I remember one time I was working down in Miami and I had a gentleman come up and he was checking in. He gave me his passport and I say, oh, you're from Panama. Well, what part are you from? And he tells me, he goes like, oh, Las Tablas. And once someone asks kind of like that particular question, they kind of know, oh, where are you from? Are you from Panama? Like, how do you know? It's not it's not really a random question.
Yeah.
And I told him I was born in David Chiriqui. And for whatever reason, always, I always get, you're from there. Because there's such a rivalry with our part and the rest of the country that it's always, you're from over there.
It's going to always be that way,
no
right?
Matter, no matter if I was 12 years old or 40 now, it's the same expression. So yeah, your wife will probably say, you're from Chiriqui. So
I look forward to traveling and seeing more of Panama. What I saw was beautiful, but the city, the traffic was kind of mind-blowing.
Oh yeah.
I just had not seen where there are not really lanes and people are just kind of like, they know where to put their cars, but I would not want to drive there.
A 2-lane highway becomes a 5-lane highway very quickly at 5 o'clock.
And an intersection too, which like I couldn't stop watching it because I was like, how are they not crashing into each other all the time? But yeah, beautiful beaches from what I could see from where we were, and the food is amazing. Obviously, the coffee culture is, above and beyond. So you do have coffee from your grandparents' farm?
Not right now. Unfortunately, with the elevation and how climate is changing, it's not at the elevation that we wanted to have it, and it's not really at a level of production. Unfortunately, since my grandmother passed away and she was a little bit older, she was kind of letting it go little by little. Although it's still in the family, it's still not at the level that we would want to have it. But luckily enough, we've had and we have connections, family ties. My father worked in the industry, made with farm and agriculture when he was there, when he was younger, when we were living there. We were actually able to go last year, or actually no, beginning of this year, if I'm not mistaken. And we were able to be introduced to Jansen and his farm, which has award-winning geisha, which is tremendous around the world. The coffee culture, the coffee industry in Panama has really developed. They really put a lot of emphasis in their coffee and exactly where it's coming from, how to cultivate it, to what strains they have, and kind of really start pairing them off to get certain notes and taste profiles. And geisha is a beautiful story on how that was found. Pretty much, this coffee bean or fruit is very difficult to cultivate. It takes almost twice the size or twice the space that other coffees do. So a lot of people started ripping them up, and then Jansen had a Q grader or a catador is what we call them down there to taste it, and he was like, wow, this is amazing. So they send it off to be tested and they send it out to the market. At the time, someone bid on it, and no coffee would sell more than $3-4 if it was really, really good. Someone bid on it and they wanted to pay $10 per pound. Okay. This was, they first thought it was a mistake. They checked their equipment, they checked everything, and no, someone actually put in for this coffee. And that's where the allure came from, because it's very hard to cultivate. It's not a big production, so obviously economy of scales. You have something so fantastic, people want it, and 20 years later, some of these award-winning coffees that they have over there, with the family connections that we have, we're able to bring some of the best coffees from Panama over here, especially from the Jansen family farm. And they were fantastic. They greeted us, they hosted us. We sat down with them. It was an amazing time. And we feel like that's kind of like the connection that we have, and the ability that we want to go to a lot of these places and go directly to the farm, talk to them, see what they're doing, see what special things they're doing there, and try to bring that coffee over here. We feel that Orlando's growing. Coffee culture, I mean, if you've seen a map of Orlando and all the coffee roasters, coffee houses, coffee shops that are in Orlando.
Even just in this neighborhood, right?
In this neighborhood.
It feels saturated, but I love coffee so much that, like, I vary my coffee origins. I mean, Stardust is usually my go-to because it's just the classic spot, but Lineage has great stuff. You guys have great stuff. There's B3. Stumptown is offered at P is for Pie, and Sugar Dough now has coffee as well. So there's no shortage. But
Salty Donut does Intelligentsia. Right. So we know that there's a great coffee scene, coffee vibe over here.
Yeah.
And we also feel that all boats, the tide rises. And going on 2 years now, when we were able to get this location. And we saw also Salty Donut opening up. When I talked to Pablo, it was, he told me this is the community that all other communities want to be like in Orlando. The New Milk District, the Packing District, all those. This was just the one, and it was just amazing that we were able to find it. Testament to him, he worked on that part. It took us about a good year and a half to really find a location, and we were so glad that we're here in this community because it's been amazing. It's been, we have our ups and downs with COVID and all that wonderful stuff. And
you started construction during the pandemic, and you converted a gas station / National Food Mart, it was called, and they had separated it. There was something going on that they were trying to do, and it didn't really pan out. There was a lot of ideas for that space, and I remember at our board of directors meetings for the Main Street organization just kind of hearing updates of, I think they wanted to put a laundromat there at some point, and then maybe frozen yogurt place. And the build out that you guys did is tremendous. I understand there were some cost overruns and some schedule overruns, which is not uncommon for construction jobs. My wife actually works in project management now, doing, overseeing construction. But you guys really had your work cut out for you in that space. Tell me about how that went.
I think Pablo could probably handle that question better than I, because it's a whirlwind for me. I was just, there was...
I think I saw the parking lot be redone one time because it wasn't graded quite right. I'm so sorry to bring up all these sore topics, and
nice
we can gloss over it. But yes, it's way in the past. It's like
now that we're here.
Yes.
Back then,
I think this day would ever come.
Of course, I can imagine how scary it would be investing. Well, before we get to even the construction, you guys knew each other from college days.
Before college, middle school, high school days. Civil War Patrol, we lived close to each other, and I didn't even know what UCF was, to be honest with you. Like, it was either FIU or bust for us. Like, it was just culture in Miami.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, we were big fans at the time, and they were playing FSU one weekend, same weekend as orientation for Tony's new school. I'm like, yeah, I'll come up with you, but that's cool. And that was the first time I ever set foot at UCF and realized, hey, if he can do it, I can do it too,
Nice.
So I was on the 8-year plan. He was a bit quicker than me, but he's also older than me. So by the time I came around and really got going to UCF, I really couldn't wait to move back to Miami. It still didn't click that Orlando was such a cool, vibrant, up-and-coming town.
Yeah.
And this is around 2009. I met my wife in 2010, and at that point, I was
which
not
I take
going
credit
anywhere.
for. I pushed them to come up to UCF.
Excellent work.
I was one of the only ones, maybe another. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Long story short, I said I'm not going anywhere. This is where it's at, and what a great decision it was. And I always had Tony just reminding me of what's possible. It's like, hey, if I did it, you can do it. You can get through this. As hard as college was for me, he really did help motivate me through that.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the time, he was working with a big restaurant group in the area, helping them open new restaurants, and moved to Ohio. He'd move back for a month or two and stay with me, and then he'd move somewhere else, Chicago, I believe. Came back and stayed with me again. And eventually he said, hey, I want to set my roots down here. And that, I want to say about 2015, 2016 was when Lobos first came up as an idea. He was living with me and kind of showed me his business plan. And I was studying economics at the time, so it really started, catching my interest and just coaching him on, hey, well, this is what you need if you want to make this happen. Fast forward 6 years later, we finally got to open the doors on what you guys see today. But it was definitely a road of many challenges. Like you said, we started with one budget and ended up having to scrape under the couch and figure out, because there's a certain point once you've gone so far, there's no turning back, right? Like you dip your toe in and your foot in, and then before you know it, you're like trying to just breathe.
Yes,
or trying to swim anyways, trying to keep.
And what a weird time too, because during the pandemic, you managing a construction project and getting workers on site and all of that. There's all of these question marks about what the future holds, and is this like,
will people ever leave their house again, right?
Right.
We started construction on this side, I want to say it was the last week of February, and lockdown happened maybe 2-3 weeks later, I want to say mid-March. And me and Tony just looked at each other and said, dude, what do we do? Like, is the world gonna end? And at that point it was just like, there's no turning back, we got to make this happen.
Well, I'm glad that you didn't turn back, because the space is beautiful. Your coffee is incredible.
Thank you.
You guys are doing awesome. And I just always see the parking lot is full. People are always in there. Just like, man.
I don't get to see much of it, unfortunately. But
is that right? Yeah.
I still work full time.
Okay. So you've got your day job, and this is your side hustle. Is that right?
It didn't really start out that way. It was just like, hey, Tony, you need some help, and eventually, I was swimming with him, so
I pulled him into the pool and we're swimming together,
like a friend does, right? That's
small business in America right now, anywhere, it's just it's tough to get by, and margins matter, and you're getting hit on one side, and in order to even make it through the summer, we made it, even though it's busy, it gets tough. You want to make sure your employees are paid on time. You want to make sure your costs are covered. And at the end of the day, the less I take from the business, the more likely it is to survive right now. So I try not to spend much time there. When I am there, I'm usually, you'll see me wiping tables or, sweeping the floors, but I don't officially have a title there except for being Tony's support system when he breaks down. And
and I break down a lot. It's just, small business, when I got into it, and running an establishment is different than owning, obviously, because it all falls on you.
Right.
And everyone's always said, if you're lucky, you could maybe see some returns 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. And in the business of hospitality and restaurants and whatnot, most places close down in the first year. Half of that closed down in 5, and then half of that closed down in 10 years. So it's
Those
not
are
easy.
Not great odds, are they?
They're not.
It is,
they're not. And we've reinvested in a couple other items to ensure that we're viable and that we can move forward and build the business. If everything goes well, hopefully we'll have another location somewhere. We're strategically planning for that, but right now our baby is this, and we want to make sure we fine-tune everything, make sure we perfected it before we decide to go just willy-nilly.
Right.
It's a learning process, right?
And it's your brand too,
Definitely.
right? And any deviation from that greatness can be so detrimental, know.
And we hopefully have
pressure.
plans for that and ideas to curve those items, because obviously we're not the big boys where they have billions of dollars in capital and then a store could do well or not do well. We don't have that option.
Yeah, you're basically competing in an industry where you have Starbucks, and then you have all the little guys, right?
Correct.
And it's kind of a weird dynamic.
And we're not the only ones that are
Sure.
are fighting in this good fight. There's, especially after the pandemic. Not even, like, I think we're still in it, but
Right, agreed.
During the pandemic, where we're going to get gas back, then all of a sudden a year later, inflation and skyrocketing prices, and we're not no different than anyone else. We also feel those items there, and we try to also balance that out with costs for our customers, because again, they can go somewhere else that has bigger budgets that they could just say, well, we're going to buy this in bulk and going to keep our margins down or keep our prices down. For a smaller business like us, it's very difficult. If a cup cost last year 50 cents and all of a sudden it costs $1.25, that's a big increase. It might not sound big and one cup, but when you're ordering cups and cups and cups every month, and so it's just an example.
Yeah.
We talked about sometimes saying, are we dumb to do this, or are we, like, how are we doing it? At the end of the day, we look at it as, if we're not going to do it, someone else will. So we need to figure it out.
Which is why it's so important that we're going direct to source our beans. Because that way we can see the impact our dollars make back home, and whether it's Panama or Nicaragua or any of the other countries that we work with, we want to be able to secure our source, number one, and make sure that we're able to leverage our economies to work those costs down per se.
That's the best way to do it, right? And to guarantee the quality, and that you're sourcing with the thoughtfulness of getting the product and roasting it the right way. I'm very familiar with Lineage coming to figure out their formulas and their different origins and beans and roasts and things like that. So I think that you guys do a very similar thing, and you are roasting in-house there at Lobos.
Yes. That was
anytime we can be named on the same list as any of those guys.
Totally.
It's an honor.
It really,
those guys do great work. And, I mentioned earlier, it's a learning process. When we started, we have a way different quality today than back then. You know what I mean? Because we've learned what to do, what not to do, what works, what our customers like. So, and hopefully it'll continue to grow and continue to get better, because we keep, testing new things and new cuppings and just new strains and things like that.
It's huge.
And absolutely, and what I like doesn't necessarily mean that that's what the customer likes.
Sure.
We didn't start off doing dark roasts. We sat down with our roaster and really defined, because we've had a lot of people come in and say, do you offer dark roast, as an example? And we fine-tuned it. Our darkest roast that we go is a French roast, and there's a difference between a French and Italian roast, and we could get into all that.
Yeah.
But one's darker than the other, and we just feel that that's going to be the best roast for the best essence for this particular coffee. And we pick certain strains and certain origins that could hold up to it. But that takes time, it takes practice, it takes tasting, a lot of jittery days sometimes. But it's fun, and especially to see the end product when I literally have customers come in and say, I can't go to the airport and have the coffee over there before I go.
Totally.
Or I have people that moved away and they'll still order online from us and we ship it out to them. So, it makes a difference. Coffee's fantastic at the end of the day. I'm not sure how many people are into coffee, but it gives you a nice little buzz. It gives you an alert. You look back in the history, health benefits. It's a fantastic product. But when you're able to do it right, and really get that essence and the flavors out of it, and when I come to realize, like I said, I got into coffee later in my life. When I was living in Tampa, I found the local roaster and I tried their coffee. I needed to get out of the house. I didn't know anyone, and I wanted to do some work.
Do you remember who that was?
I do. Buddy Brew in Tampa. I'll give a shout out to them.
I'm familiar. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so they're fantastic. I haven't met them personally, but they were a big inspiration. Because I saw them build from a small retail shop to what they have now, which is like about 5 or 6 around Tampa and the airport. But I remember the first time going over there, and I remember just adding sugar and adding a lot of sugar. And then I go sit down and I try it. I'm like, this is sweet, overly sweet. And then just a little thing in my head kind of clicked, and why was it so sweet? And then I kept going back, and I kept on adding less and less and less, to a point I didn't have to add sugar, because the quality of the coffee, the roast, how they prepared it, made the massive amount of difference. And at the time, still am health conscious, and I wanted to eliminate the sugars, and I wanted to eliminate all that wonderful stuff that adds the pounds on.
It does. I like to get my sugar from other places too.
Absolutely.
I love my coffee black, and I love my sweets occasionally.
Absolutely. So it enabled me to do that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what really sparked the interest, and kind of revisited the idea of my family and the farm and whatnot. But yeah, once you have a really, really good cup of coffee, we had one in Nicaragua with the owner in Nicaragua. We just sat down there and we just started chit-chatting. He makes a brew, and we're sitting there like, I think this is better than what we even get. This is fantastic. It was black, beautiful, aromatic. It was amazing, and for us to be able to open up hopefully some people's eyes that, Maxwell House and all those, again, they paved the way. They're great.
Yeah. For what it is, it serves a purpose.
Correct.
But I challenge you to drink that without sugar or something. It's a different experience.
It is.
It's not as comforting. It really is kind of jarring in a way.
It is. So it's, people run on coffee almost every day. So if you're able to just minimize that intake of those sugars and whatnot, at least for me, it's important.
Right.
And I love it. I just, people come in and ask me all the time, well, what's your favorite coffee? Like, I'm not gonna lie to you. It's a latte. It could be 100 degrees outside, whole milk, and espresso. That's all I do. It's just, and again, if you prepare and make it right, milk has sugars and lactose, obviously, that, if you steam it right, and get that frothiness out of it, you can unlock those sugars, and that's what gives the sweetness with the coffee. So it's amazing. It's just the little things that you kind of pay attention to. Obviously, we're in the business and we're in the industry, and but hopefully at the end of the day is when guests come in, they could just taste that automatically, and that's what we hope that people kind of understand when they come to our shop.
Definitely. Yeah. And it's interesting, the pumpkin spice latte trend, and how it can be very polarizing for people, and there's an acronym for it, PSL, which I didn't know until recently. And it is very popular, and I know that is, that's kind of what keeps people going back to Starbucks, that it's just sort of that, like, overly sweetened, just too many things.
We don't want to take that away from people, right?
I know. I don't mean to dog on it. Right. And I had a couple PSLs. We were on vacation, and Gabby was kind of making fun of me because I usually only drink my coffee black, but I really wanted to treat myself.
Sometimes you just want that.
There's something very comforting, and I do understand it. I try not to make a habit out of that, but
it's funny you say that, because the other day we were working on an event, and I just looked at Tony and I said, can I just have a latte today, please? And he looks at me and goes, oh, you want to enjoy your coffee today? I'm like, maybe. I don't do this often, but sometimes you do.
Absolutely. Yeah. There is something, as I said, like comforting. I mean, I don't know. There's probably more ways to describe it, but it's a specific sensation that I don't think you really get from other foods or beverages. And obviously it's very popular, and obviously coffee's not going away. And it's great that you have decaf for those that cannot caffeinate. My wife is one of those people, and it's pretty heartbreaking for her, but there's great decaf offerings in the neighborhood, which is super important for a lot of folks.
And again, there might be people listening to this, blasphemy, decaf. I get it.
But there are specific reasons, right? I know.
But we were carrying, to get a little nerdy right now, we were carrying Sumatra decaf, and we still work with an importer, and he was like, I may have something a little different for you. One of my favorite coffees besides Nicaragua is Papua New Guinea, and he had something that he brought in from Papua New Guinea that was decaf. And we sat down with our roaster, we did our thing, and put it on an espresso. I'm like, wow, hey, this is what I'm talking about. This is nice. I may do a little decaf.
Yeah.
So
when you have to balance it out when you've had too much coffee already, but you still want to drink coffee. Like, that's the secret weapon right there, right?
And we try to also...
We also got beer and wine.
I know. I love that. That is so good. Yes.
Decaf or beer, I don't know.
That's true.
So when we were sitting down and thinking about this idea, what is going to set us apart and what we want to do differently, I always like to describe our shop as a coffee house. Because we do more than most under one roof.
Yeah.
Smartly or not smartly, to take so many things
under one roof. You do a lot
roof.
there, for sure. Yeah.
We roast. We obviously serve coffee. We do food and bites, and then beer and wine. We stay and try to make those connections here in the community. So a lot of the taps, or beer-wise, are all local or hyper-local. Or at least in the state of Florida, we do have a connection with Tank Brewing, which my brother-in-law works with them. So, and we love their stuff too. They're fantastic. But from Tactical to Lake Ivanhoe to 1010 Brewing, like we know all those guys, and we've collaborated sometimes on beer and coffee.
That's
and whatnot.
So
cool. So we feel it's we want to give a space where you could come in no matter what time of day. If you want to come in with a group of friends in the morning, or come in and work, or in the evening come in with a group of friends to just unwind, we have that for you. Again, like I worked in restaurants before, and it was always kind of like taboo. You come in, you sit down, you have your lunch or your dinner, but to sit down and do work, it's like, hey, you're taking that table. For us, it's not, we want that space. We've also saw the market where a lot of people are now working from home.
Right.
And sometimes you just need to get out.
Yeah.
And we want to be able to build that space. But also, if you are going to sit for a little bit, we also have food and beer, and you could just enjoy the rest of your day.
So smart.
So that, all that stuff is very strategic, and we have a fantastic regulars that come in all the time, and we build that again for the community, for a place to really come and enjoy. We were lucky enough to do the night market this past weekend.
Yeah, so, Zombie-toberfest night market. Yeah, it was huge, right?
It was fantastic.
Were you expecting that turnout? It was just...
It was our second time, but
it
was
this
much
year
busier
was much,
this year.
Yes.
Yeah. So after the first year, it was off on our own. Again, fantastic, great event. So we knew this year, being already almost open 2 years, we wanted to bring in vendors. We wanted to, have a little bit of more offering, and just give a little bit more vibe for the community.
Right.
And I think we did that. We were packed. I think the place was packed. Not just us, but the whole.
You guys did an awesome job. Yeah, and the board of directors was talking about that too. How you really tied the whole thing together. Like, had a DJ, had the food, had the beverages. Like, it's very efficient. Like, all of it, and people were hanging out. Like, it was awesome. It was so perfect.
And we want to be able to get back to some sense of normalcy. Again, it's crazy times right now, but just be able to come out, hang out with your family, enjoy the weekend. The weather's just perfect.
It is. And you guys have that amazing space out back that, behind the plazas and behind your shop, you have, basically this alley. It's a road. But it hasn't been activated the way that it could, with the exception of your space. And you have seating with kind of like this lovely fencing, this wood fence that just, it's very inviting back there. And right now, and for the foreseeable future, my wife and I really are only doing outdoor stuff, indoor with masks, but we have, health reasons that we have to be very cautious. And your space is covered. It's inviting any time of day, and especially this time of year. I think that's such a huge contribution to the culture, because people do want to hang out here, and when you have a welcoming space, people remember that.
So in the back, we have 5 round tables and a couple of individual seatings that you could also have. Inside, we have up to about 48 seats. So total, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was like 78, 79.
It's a beautiful, beautiful shop, and your packaging, your branding.
Thank you.
And I understand you guys are selling your coffee at local Walmart now.
Yes,
that's a pretty big step.
And so going back into reinvesting and kind of getting a name and brand out there, we were poised with this opportunity to go into Walmart, and right now in 11 of 12 Walmarts, there's one more that's not quite ready yet. We have other items coming down the pipeline. I think another store, not locally, a little bit further out. We do have some wholesale accounts as well that carry our coffee. C3 Church out of Lake Underhill, the French Patisserie in Adult Mall of Millennia, 1803 we partnered up with, and some other companies as well. So we're trying to expand right and smartly as best as we can, because no one saw the pandemic, no one had a playbook.
Right.
So we're trying to learn from that and be able to be viable if something does happen.
Sure.
Again, right now the state of the world isn't great. It's sometimes really, really hard to get just product in, or paper goods or anything.
From seed to cup, there's just so many things involved, so many logistical, whether weather cooperates, the yield on the plants, to even local governments at times, even though there's a lot of the regions we're getting coffee from have pro coffee, economies, you never know, that can change.
Right.
So you got to be ready for that. Teammates, finding people to work with us over at Lobos has at times been just, in this economy, it's tough. And, one of the reasons why we're focusing on the wholesaling and the retail side is because, let's face it, this real estate market, for someone like me and Tony, that's nearly impossible to find something that makes sense.
It's kind of scary to watch it happen, right? The numbers don't make any sense.
We signed and got our funding and whatnot February, and we started before the pandemic, a couple weeks before. Yeah. If we would have waited, we hands down we wouldn't have been here. And now looking at other opportunities, there's nothing that would be remotely what we found 2 years ago. It's just skyrocketed. It's just
right. Because you're is it a ground lease agreement? Is it like a certain number of years?
Right.
Okay.
And Leonard's fantastic. He's worked with us, and he's also a small business entrepreneur.
Right. He
as well.
owns the other gas or the gas station.
I think him and his sister. Yeah. So they have a partnership. We were lucky because a lot of places that we went to, they didn't know Lobos. We didn't have a triple net rating, egg, whatever they're called. We're coming in blank square one, building a brand, a business from square one.
Yeah. In a place that already has quite a bit of coffee too.
Right. Well, and that's one of the reasons we're so lucky. Like Brian, our landlord, we had a handshake deal, and he respected it. And we know, but the time that everything was officially finalized, and the time we spoke to him, he must have had 10, 20 different offers come his way. And, him being the type of person he is, he's a partner in this, in the sense that he's helped us bring it to fruition and didn't come and say, okay, other famous coffee shop, come on in,
Absolutely.
So, and that was one of the challenges when we were looking for a location. This corner was our fourth actual place that we had under contract.
Wow.
So we had the last of which never really told us no, just kind of kept us in limbo.
Oh my God.
And I'd call him and be like, hey,
stringed us along.
I read this magazine article that says this other coffee shop is a for sure thing. What's going on? And they're like, no, don't worry about it. We're still considering you guys. And at that point, I looked at Tony. I said, Tony, we're not going in there. Like, we got to make something happen. And timing's everything.
So
everything happens for a reason. And luckily it happened.
Yeah.
Like, that was the day that I got on the landlord again. I was like, hey, come on, let's figure something out. Like, we got to make this happen, or else my friend's dream's not going to come true.
Yeah.
Because we were at the point, like I said, it took us 6 years. And we were just at the point where
6 years for us talking. For me, it was
deal falling through. And eventually it was like, if this doesn't happen now, like, I'm giving up.
Yeah.
And,
not even a pandemic could stop you guys.
Well, that hadn't happened yet. I tell you, that was one of the, I always say if we were open before the pandemic, we would have been dead in the water. And luckily, everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
That happened to be the day that they came and took the gas pumps out.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, you know what? We got out of the gas contract, so if you're still interested, come on down. I was like, I'll be right there.
Wow.
We did consider like, wow, there's a lot of coffee on this corridor, but at the same time, it's because we all feed off of each other. It's not just coffee; it's coffee and food.
Mm-hmm.
It's fresh roasting. It's the amazing co-working space that we have here at East End.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't picture this anywhere else. It just hasn't happened. So
and
we're
the
very
timing,
lucky to be a part of it.
Absolutely. You're such a perfect fit here. And the timing of your opening up with the school also around the same time, if not like exactly the same timeline. And the traffic of parents dropping kids off, inevitably, you're right in their path.
Yeah.
So,
which is why we feel it so much come summertime.
Yeah.
We're like, hey, where are those school kids?
Don't they have like summer classes or?
But like that school's always going to be there, so you'll always have that sort of built-in customer base just based on the traffic pattern, right?
And Audubon Park, they've been a fantastic partner with us. We've partnered up with them from Palmville to other events, and
PTA.
they just the PTA. So
Yeah.
they've been fantastic. It's just it's been great. It's we could complain, but to be quite honest, no one listens to us.
I get it. No, I mean, as you alluded to earlier, like running a small business is really difficult. It can't be overstated. Having to dip into your own finances, not really pay yourself, like people that are not small business owners are not familiar with that. They just see a successful business and
Get
they
it
must
all the time.
and they're like, you guys must be just rolling in it, right? And it's like, well, we're paying things off slowly, and then we have a viable business and we will make a profit, and that comes
my
with
wife
time.
gets it all the time because we both work like full time.
Yeah.
And she just started a new job, and she doesn't like telling anybody about Lobos because she just feels awkward about attention, I guess.
Okay. Did she grow up around here?
No, she's actually from Gainesville.
Oh, cool.
And
okay.
Anybody who walks into Lobos and says that looks nice, chances are she put it there.
Nice.
Because if the whole place would be black and white if it was just me and Tony. Like,
Okay.
Seriously.
Another side story.
Yeah.
I run restaurants, hotels, blindfold.
Yeah.
You know how many light fixtures there are in the world to choose from?
I'm somewhat familiar. I have, yes.
My
We're
brain,
not built for that.
No, my
No.
brain melted, and I looked at his wife. You need
Pick
to
one,
pick.
please.
Give me 3 options. No, I'll pick out of 3 options. There were so many lighting packages, but it's not even that. It's like the luminous of how much you're gonna get. You want to put it on a flicker. You want to put it on a timer. Like it's just.
And it changes the whole atmosphere too,
It
right?
does.
It's so
It has
important,
a
but
huge
It's
impact.
huge.
Us being the people we are, we're not good at picking out design or colors.
That's why
or
there are
this.
professionals
Yeah.
for that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thing with the professional is they pick the most expensive one out of
That is
everything. So, 'cause it's not their money.
Yeah.
So,
That is the
Or
tough.
all of a sudden,
Yeah,
like, this is
my
the
bank account
budget,
is
and then
so-
all of a sudden they're like,
Yeah. What
this ain't
budget?
not what,
Yeah.
like, you're taking 3 items to take one. Like it's
Yeah,
just.
and they want to make it look as best as possible,
Right.
but it's like, okay, who's paying for that?
Exactly.
That is like
There's a balance.
just a light fixture.
So finding that
Yeah.
balance between how beautiful could it be and what our resources could afford.
Yeah.
She was great at really picking out the green wall and the logo, and she hand drew the Lobos coffee roasters wall herself.
Really?
Yeah, so,
Wow. That's
a
so
lot
cool.
of fun times building out the place. But I love it. I think we did a great job with it. But yeah, going back to she'll go to work, and when the people at her office found out her husband is part of Lobos Coffee Roasters, they're like, "Well, why are you working?"
Oh.
And she's like, "Because I got to. Got to check in on the savings. It takes 3 days."
Yeah, appearances can be very deceiving, right? But you guys, it is a very fancy looking place. It is. It's very Instagrammable, and that's important to a lot of people. But I was so pleasantly surprised to try your coffee and just to have that experience and drink it black, no sugar, no anything.
Do you know what you had? Which one? Or?
I actually was in yesterday and I had the drip and I didn't look and I should have.
Probably had Papua New Guinea.
P&G.
Okay. Yeah. It was fantastic. I was just blown away. Yeah.
Favorite.
And hats off to Tony and Adam, who's our main. I mean, Tony's the one that comes up with our profiles and stuff, and he's a roaster in his own right. But Adam has really upped the level of the quality of beans. Like I said, I'm hardly here, but when I do, I'll take a bag home with me.
Mm-hmm.
And
quality control.
Yeah, somebody's got to test it, right? Yeah,
I mean, it was just one day I was like, wow, our Brazil got a lot better. And then it happened with the PNG, and then it happened with Nicaragua. And I'm just like, man, you guys are really putting in the work here, you know?
Dialing it in.
Yeah,
That's what
it's easy
about.
for me to be critical on the back end, right? Because
Sure.
I'm never seeing the work. But when I taste it, I'm like, all right, I'll get off his case a little bit.
And that's one of the things that differentiates, and that's what gets the repeat customers, because I'll remember that cup of coffee forever just because it was so good, you know? Okay. And it really made me happy that you guys are doing it at that level. And that's really, I mean, you can have a great looking space and not very good coffee, and you are not that at all. And I hate being critical of anybody else, but there's another company that has a lot of locations, and I'm not a fan of their coffee.
You know, everybody has a different way of growing, and you know, their strategy could be what it is today, but it can change. Our strategy is, you know, maybe we can do what we do in one location and still put out a quality product. Well, that's worth more to us than having 100 locations that's not as good, you know?
Right.
So, but that's really hard to do when you're growing in scale. You got to think about things like shelf life, distribution, and things like that make it really hard.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I'd hate to perceive quality on one experience, you know? I promise there's plenty of people that have walked into Lobos and been like, this is the worst coffee I've ever had in my life. Maybe the barista was having a bad day and didn't dial in properly. Maybe, you know, they just didn't grind it right or didn't set the water to the right temperature. Coffee is a very, very particular fruit. Like if you don't put your recipe how you're expecting it to, you can get all kinds of different flavors out of that thing. So, you know, it's really hard. There have been times where I've been to a bad coffee shop and they got it right, and there have been times where I've been to a great coffee shop and they got it wrong. I think at the end of the day, it's just having that experience of your ambiance, and there's just so much more to it, right? It's like your morning routine, having that familiar taste hit your lips, or just, you know, oh, I got some coffee, I got some caffeine in me today, you know, I'm ready to be a shark today, you know, or whatever it takes. So, you know, it's hard to be too critical if you know, of someone. You know, they may be growing at a fast rate, but at the end of the day, I've had great coffee there too. So
that's good to hear. And I do love that they have partnered with Kelly's, and they do the scoop shop. So I do just kind of wish that I'm just sort of like, I want everybody to have great coffee, you know?
It's so hard to do when you have that many spots.
I know.
It's so hard.
It is, and it's very difficult. And you know, we have a plan if we ever get to the ability to grow, and we have an idea how to grow with still keeping that quality.
Right.
And again, it starts from day one, where we go out to the farm and select and build these relationships. Honestly, to have one shop and bring what we bring, which is almost a containers full of coffee, that's a lot of coffee to bring in for one shop, you know? We can't do that 3-4 times for different regions. We just don't have the volume for it, right?
Yeah.
You know, what we want to do is maybe not look for another location, maybe somewhere where we could actually store our coffee so that we could build in the future, but still have that quality, right? So it starts from there. That's our competitive edge. That, you know, and there are other roasters that do it as well. They go out and they cup and they taste and they go out, but that's how we view it. And again, having family connections and family ties and help out as well. But for the coffee shop, you know, to piggyback on what Pablo was saying, you know, we try to strive and tell our staff, you know, there are going to be your connoisseurs that are going to come in and they're going to want to talk shop. I want you to be educated enough so you could talk shop.
Sure.
But there's also guests that are going to come in here and say, hey, I just need my cup of coffee. hey, cool, here it is.
Yeah.
You know, we want to be like right in the middle where we're educated enough but know that you don't have to take it to a certain level, like, oh my God, you ordered it wrong. No, it's fine. You order how you want to order and we'll take care of it. You know, and that's the sense of community, the sense of vibe, getting to know your name, getting to know what you like just right so you come back. It's really how I grew up in the service industry. One of the primary reasons why we roast is because the last place I worked at, it was a steakhouse, beautiful, nice, great, massive company that I worked for. You could probably have an idea.
Sure.
And they dry age their steaks. You know, what are the differences between that particular steakhouse and another one? Really nothing. They just dry age their steak and they get to show it off to their customers. That's where the quality comes in. That's where the difference comes in. That's where the taste comes in. And want to do the same thing. A lot of customers want to see where their food, where their coffee, where their things are being prepped, where it's coming from.
Yeah.
Because again, more and more people are being more health conscious. So
Totally.
We also don't want to be that shop that doesn't give you sugar for your coffee. Like, if you want sugar in your coffee, we're gonna give. Who am I to tell you how to drink your coffee? You know? Which we have business. I mean, I know it's changed owners quite a bit since then, but my first time, there's one coffee shop on the east side of town that they just didn't have sugar, and I was like, I wasn't into the coffee scene yet, but I was like, I need sugar in my and then we don't want to be that shop.
Don't deny people. Right, no, exactly. Absolutely.
We want to have something for everybody. You know, who are we to tell you how to?
Yeah, and perfect example with we do have a Florida PSL. PSL.
Ours is a Florida.
You know.
What makes it a Florida PSL?
The orange bitters that we put in there and the recipe that we have. So,
I need to try that.
Yeah,
it's not really much syrup either. It's almost like a baking recipe. It's so good.
Correct.
Wow.
So we try to balance out the sweetness and the flavors in it. That it's just not a sugar bomb.
Yeah.
And again, going back to Starbucks, this is not me. This is the industry saying that some of their coffees have more calories than a McDonald's burger.
Allegedly.
Right? Allegedly.
Right.
Allegedly.
Well, they have to list that now, right? That's like part of the deal, and it is. It's like really unhealthy. And I see people with like the big gulp-sized ones, and just what are they doing with their lives?
And judgment-free zone here.
I know, but I just think of it from a health aspect.
Correct.
And, you know, I just worry for their insides. You know, that's really. I am an empath, and I base my experience with the world on just like, oh, that's going to be bad for them later. And I don't want that. Right. It would be really bad for me. Yeah.
But we don't want to take that away. We want to be able to, you know, we are a craft coffee bar, so we create drinks, but we want to make sure it's a well-balanced drink. Right. Like, I love to go out and have an old-fashioned, but I want it to be balanced.
Yes.
And tasting great. I don't want it to be too sugary, too alcoholic. I want a great balanced drink.
Yep.
So in that aspect, that's what we try to focus on and provide for our customers.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And I think that the clientele of this neighborhood really do respond to that, and they do understand the level of quality. And I do hope that from this podcast, people will, if they have not been to Lobos before, they will go visit you and find out just how awesome it is.
Absolutely.
You guys are just doing such a great job.
Thank you.
And if you came and had a bad experience, come back and give us a shot.
See, that's a very good point, because I mean, and really, you started out, this is your first location, and there was a learning curve.
Absolutely.
So at the beginning, when would you say that you really had it kind of dialed in, and you're like not making those kind of missteps that you might have been making at the beginning?
So a quick story.
Yeah.
When we opened up, we got our CO, or our temporary CO, on a Tuesday. We decided to open on a Wednesday. Even so, again, during the pandemic, I didn't know if anyone was going to show up. Luckily enough, the community supported us and they started showing up. That first Saturday, I called Pablo and I said, hey, listen, I can't talk, but I need your help. And I hung up. We had that first day a 45-minute wait just for coffee. Wow. Just for drip coffee. That's unacceptable, but it was our first weekend.
Yeah.
This one comes up. It's like, does he really need me? No parking space. There was a line at the door. It was scary, also very like, okay, this may work.
Yeah.
Because you don't know if every day you're gonna have those lines. But to answer your question, honestly, I think we're still fine tuning. It's year 2. We're getting into other things, but I think after that first year 1, probably really fine tune 6 months into it, and then after that year we felt comfortable because we could look back, what worked, what didn't. We analyzed. We sat down with our general manager, our trusted group of people that do our Instagram and whatnot. So we feel like we have a great group that we could bounce ideas off. Ultimately, what we didn't want to do is just kind of throw money at the wall and say, hey, let's see if this works. Again, for us, it's finite of the finances that we have, so we got to make sure that we do things as best as possible.
Totally.
I think one of the better lessons that we learned, at first, since we were trying to get people up and running pretty quickly, we started looking for previous barista experience or coffee experience, but we quickly learned that other coffee shops don't do things the way we want to do things.
Okay.
And they don't execute the way. So we started looking more for customer-friendly experience, front of house. We don't
those
care.
Soft skills that are you can't teach
you can't
those
teach people
really,
to be nice to people, right?
Totally.
And that goes a lot. I can show you how to make a latte, right? But
Sure.
I can't show you how to be nice to people. So
Yeah.
I think as we started bringing people on the team and we started coaching and just letting them know, like, hey, a garnish is important because you just paid $4 or $5 for this drink. Like, at the end of the day, presentation matters.
Right.
People eat with their eyes.
And
yeah,
and just
absolutely.
having that type of person that won't brush that off and be like, oh, Pablo's just crazy. It's hard. Yes,
Sure.
It's hard. I am.
We
but-
all are a little bit. If we
Nobody
don't
wants to be
admit it,
normal.
those are the ones to really look out for.
Yeah, the quiet ones are.
So eventually, we, like you said, we sat down with Beth and just kind of talked about, well, what is our culture? What do we want to see building here? We want people to be nice to people. We want you to be greeted, and we want the place to look immaculate when you walk in. And it needs to be clean. And obviously, if somebody's not extremely happy with their drink, let's remake it for them. And
Remake it, make it new, or make something different.
Totally.
A cup of coffee is not worth the lifetime of someone that really comes in for the first time or wants to keep on coming. So that's where, how we look at it. And absolutely, if you don't like a cup of coffee or if you don't like something, we've had regulars come up and say, hey, your lids aren't fitting on your cup. I'm like, sincerely apologize, let me take care of that. And not making excuses.
Yeah.
Although we can't find the cups and lids and everyone else is in the same situation, they're getting it because they're manufacturing, everything's just terrible because we usually get them from overseas. Now you're only dealing with 1 or 2. They don't understand that. And honestly, I don't want to tell them that. That's not their fault. We got to take care of it.
Right. They just want their experience to be a certain way.
Correct.
And you can't really tell them why it can't be because you don't want them to think that they can't have it that way. It's a weird spot to be
It's
in.
like the oranges. So we got, my pride and joy is this fresh squeeze orange juice machine, right? When we're building out the, you put the oranges on top. And,
Heck yeah.
And everybody loves this, watch the machine pour your juice. And I walk in, I'm like, how come we don't have oranges? Because we can't find the ones that have the right size. It's just not available. What COVID did to orange trees, I don't know. But all of a sudden, they're just not available. So
Wow.
it's just little tiny, the sign of the times right now that we got to just kind of put out what we can and still deliver a quality product and a good experience. So,
That's all we can control, right?
Right.
Correct.
That's it.
And there's a lot of stuff in the back end and our side that we've already built in that some guests may not even know. You could go around some of the coffee shops here in Orlando and other places, and I'll give you a prime example. We have a difference between obviously a small or large. That's what we do. Either small or large or regular or large.
Yeah.
And we don't want ever our coffee to taste diluted. So we made a conscious decision. If you order a large, you get an extra shot. So some people will come in, I want a large and an extra shot. Okay, our large comes with 3 shots. You want 4? I'm like, no, I think that's fine. Again, it goes back to the balance, the taste. Some other places just add extra milk, and it's there's no taste in that. So
or ice
for us,
right?
So
right.
there's that balance that we do in the back end.
Yeah.
to make sure that you have that quality, because at the end of the day, it's not cheap cup of coffee, right? We put a lot of love and effort into that cup, but you're gonna get that quality when you order it, and that's what we want to do. But we build that in. We look for staff members that understand that understand if it's not done right, fix it, do it right, or get them something else. If we recommend something, I always say, if you don't like it, I'll buy it. I'll get you something else.
Yeah.
And I really haven't had to do that many often.
No, that's great. Yeah. But just the fact that is out there, because, you won't get that at Starbucks. This is just the way it is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I've never tried, but I'm not a fan of Starbucks coffee either. So
Listen,
I go again.
Listen,
I'm a coffee critic, I guess. I didn't realize it, but there are things that I like and then things that I don't like, it's hard to not be honest about some of those things. Sometimes.
It's sometimes hard. You need your caffeine, and there's no other options.
Yeah.
Listen, to be fair, my mom comes to visit from Miami, and she still brings her old brick of La Llave Cuban coffee up with her.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, Mom, I have coffee. She's like, no, it's okay. I'm like, I don't know.
It's hard not to be like a little offended, right?
Oh.
Yeah. Wow.
It's just nature. It's just like that's what they're in. That's their
what
life.
she's been drinking for.
Yeah.
It's just.
And we get into those habits, and we want it to be familiar. We want it to be the same every time, and that sort of thing. And I think also that people that do seek out quality, it's like you have evolved with your experience, and you are making a better and better product, which I think is more exciting. I prefer that. I love that at the beginning you were like really trying to figure it out, and you might have gotten it right some of the time, but now you're more consistent with it, and you're even getting better. And that to me is like what it's really about. That's really exciting.
No, another quick story with, for example, our espresso machine was custom built by this gentleman called Salvatore out in California, and again, like with the light fixtures that just blew my mind and melted my brain. There's some other things that I was able to handle, like espresso machines and the roaster, and like I had an idea what I wanted to do.
Sure.
But again, explaining it to my business partner, like this is why, right? So the espresso machine, we went out to California for a convention, and we looked at products. We were in LA having a great time. We're like, listen, we have a meeting 2.5 hours north, and we were talking like, oh, there's this, Pablo was saying, there's this espresso machine, there's this one, let's make a deal, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I really like this one. Let's just give him a chance. Come with me.
I didn't want to leave LA.
He didn't want to leave LA.
I was having fun.
It's so cool, isn't it?
He took it as more of a vacation.
Yeah.
And like, hey, we're working. But we went there. After 10 minutes, he's like nudging me. Do it. Cut him on a check. Just cut him on a check. Because it was obviously he wasn't local, but it was craft built. Yeah. We did our research.
Just the nicest gentleman, like this sweet old man. You walk in, he's greeting you with just so much enthusiasm, and you can tell he puts so much love into his craft. He's got a workshop back there, and he's cutting sheet metal and doing all this by hand. And we came in, he's like, look what I already have drawn up for you. What do you think of this? And what do you think of that?
Wow.
And I went from saying, hey, what's wrong with this one? We can just buy this one here in LA and not have to drive 2 hours. And
go back to the pool.
Like,
yeah.
And I was like, oh no, I'm glad we came, because wow, like this man's story is amazing. This a one-of-one espresso machine that we got to custom make, and is so much more consistent than an electric pump machine, which I didn't get back then. The lever espresso machine just gives you so much more of a consistent shot pool.
It's more forgiving.
Electric pump.
Okay.
It's more forgiving.
It's also more time consuming, right? So that 45-minute wait that he was talking about earlier had a lot to do with new baristas learning how to use this machine and getting a quality shot out of it, because people think coffee's just pushing a button and you get a coffee shot out of it. And
for some coffee machines, it's true, but it's not going to be the quality there. Right.
And it still blows my mind how they can do it, because it's so hard to do even without it. So just having that extra piece of artisanship to our espresso machine, I feel really, really gave us that extra just sense of class, and people, when they walk in, they know, okay, these guys are serious about their coffee. Like, they care what they're putting out there.
Yeah, I haven't even heard of like a custom built machine like that either. Is that fairly.
Salvatore does great. If you ever have a chance to, go.
Does he have a company?
That's the name of it. Yeah,
just
it's Salvatore.
I think it's the machine Salvatore Espresso. His shop is, I think, Espresso Superstore out in California. He is Italian, so these machines, or this style of machine, actually comes from the south of Italy. That's more prevalent down there. Think about it as a old Corvette, piston driven carburetor. Like, it's old school manual way to do it. The new stuff is your Teslas of the espresso machine world. Right. Again, they're very beautiful, they're very sexy, and you can play with it, you can control a lot of things, but there's also just something about the old school. For me, I love to drive a manual. If I could ever do that, if I could ever get back into, it's just that feel that you're in the machine, you're part of the machine, right? That's what we feel. That
you have more control.
Correct.
You are in control of the outcome with that machine.
And it's more consistent too. Like, we've played around with, you got an electric pump that goes out in the middle of the day, your whole shop is shut down.
And this thing is not going out, right? It's just solid.
Technically it's 3 machines in one too, so it kind of if one side goes down, we've got 2 other sides we can continue to use, so that's nice.
Wow.
You still got to do maintenance on them. You still got to change gaskets and whatnot. So, but yeah, it's a definitely labor of love. It pulls a beautiful shot. But yeah, that's the things that we want to also, like, just when we came into it, how are we going to set ourselves apart? We know Orlando's growing. We know the coffee scene's growing. What can we add to the scene? What can we do something differently that no one else is doing? So that's the idea where we want to come up with a coffee house, so you have more underneath one roof. So again, we're blessed to be in this community. I actually try to look for a home here, and forget it, during COVID, it just shot the roof. Like, I have to stay where I'm at. He's like, man, I love this community. Like, yeah, but
just the walk over here was so nice. The breeze was perfect, and
I love living here. I mean, I bought this house 20-something years ago, so it was a whole different economy than, unfortunately.
More power to you.
Thank you. Awesome. What part of town are you guys living in?
Well, I live around the Millennium area.
Okay.
So when I moved back, I was working for the steakhouse that I was working at before.
Yeah.
So I kind of live close to there.
Yeah.
Pablo. And I live in Lake Nona right now.
Okay.
Which is not very walkable to anything.
No.
There's a couple nice neighborhoods that have some walking trails and stuff, but for the most part, it's a hike. So
they didn't really think of that with the layout, with the planning there, right? I mean, it's a big medical industry and it's growing and growing, but it's a different setup.
You make it out there recently? When's the last time you went down?
It's been a little while. Yeah. I saw the boxy or the I've seen that.
Have you been down to the Wave yet? The Wave Hotel?
I have not.
Yeah. It's worth it. They got a nice sculpture garden. You walk down there. They brought the bull from Wall Street, apparently, like the actual bull. Like,
really?
It's
they moved
cool.
it?
I think there's 3 of them. From what I understand, there's several of the same, but the guy who owns Lake Nona, or who owns Tavistock, owns 3 of them. I heard he literally owns the one on Wall Street, from what I heard.
Wow.
And then owns one on Lake Nona. I don't know. The 3rd one's probably like in his bedroom or something. Who knows? Right? Like,
that's a small business owner with like tons of money.
Yeah.
That's the different kind of guy.
Yeah.
It's a booming area. I mean, I love living down there.
Yeah.
We considered it for our first Lobos, but again, priced out of the market. I don't see how any of those businesses can.
And there's got to be some correction with real estate at some point. So I think maybe
it's starting to. You're starting to see some of it. I like to think.
Yeah.
But again, there's always going to be winners and losers. What's good for one person is not going to be good for another.
Of course, it's very unfortunate.
It could be.
I love, just to get on a little side note, what's going on over here. The crosswalks and the walking path that they're doing here at Auto Park is just phenomenal.
Right.
And again, it goes back to what I said before, that this is a community that all the other communities strive to be with, because you're able to walk around, you're able to go around the neighborhoods, jog, go to the main street markets, and buy a donut, buy a coffee, buy a sandwich, whatever the case may be. And that's what really, attracts. I live around Millennium. I don't have that. That's at the mall. You know,
Yeah.
you can only walk in the mall.
Yeah,
That's not what
and you
wanna do.
basically drive from place to place there, even when you have these sort of like strip malls, you know, in different like plazas and things like that. People don't just like park one place and walk. Whereas here, that's really what it's about, and encourages it. Even visitors from out of town, it's like, it's amazing just the amount of traffic from Disney Springs when they're trying to get Gideon's cookies.
Right.
And they come over here, which is, it's not you know, it's not a trek. It's like a half an hour, 45 minutes, something like that.
I can't even get my friends from Miami who go to Disney to come over here.
I know, it's wild.
Gideons can do it. More power to them. That's awesome. Yeah,
it really does.
Yeah. And they're there early. Like, there are times I'm at the shop early, and you see them lining up, and you're like, whoa. They don't open for another couple hours. That's amazing.
It's amazing.
I saw someone, I think it was some YouTuber or whatever the case may be, he posted like, I am on wait on the virtual queue to get into the queue.
Right.
Drove to Gideon's, picked up a cookie.
Yes.
And he was still on the virtual queue.
Yes. Like,
more power to him. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Which
I
just
know.
speaks with the greatness that Gideon's Cookies is. I mean, come on. Have you ever seen such a...
I was just there earlier. I'm addicted. Yeah, I got hooked.
Top,
I know. They're too good.
And for us,
they really are.
You know, for us being in the community, people drive by like, oh, coffee, I'll go grab some. You know, and it's happened to us multiple times. We either have people getting Gideons or getting salty and literally coming across like, oh, no, I want your coffee.
I love to see it. I love to see people go get like a dessert, whether it's sugar dough or the salty, or, you know, and then bring it over, and even if it's a pizza from 1803 or something, they come sit in our patio and have, you know, whether it's a beer or coffee or whatever, and just enjoy the patio. I mean, we love to see it. You know, we want to be a part of the community. We don't care if somebody's going to yoga next door and needs our parking spot. We want to be able to add value, and eventually we know that person's going to come in, and it gives us that cohesiveness with our neighbors that I think is what makes this neighborhood work. You know, we've partnered up with vendors around all the time, whether it's been Hinckley's or Oat Hearth, the bread company, or, you know, 1803 now, and you know, we feel like that's what makes everything work here. That's, even though we may have similar product lines, everyone's different enough in their own way that can deliver a different experience. Stardust, Lineage, Sugar Dough has great coffee in there with Otis. You got, you know, like we mentioned before, it's just all these different offerings of the same product that are all so different. Yeah. And so good, right? Because each of them is great in their own right.
And to just piggyback off of what he's saying is, we have maybe 8 different SKUs or different regions or different origins at our shop at a time. Each coffee shop could have the same coffee, either roughly from the same region, roasted differently, prepared differently, and it will get different results. There's so much coffee around the coffee belts in the world that we can't have everything. Right. So all these other places are grabbing coffee from all these other places. You know, we're lucky enough that we have a little bit of Ethiopia left, like Pablo was saying. You know, there's sometimes the government, we're not able to get some right now because of what's going on in Ethiopia, but it tastes like blueberries, for instance. You know, you have something from Kona and Hawaii that tastes like chocolate or cocoa, you know, like, so you could have a variety of tastes and flavors from each location. Yeah. And which, again, like we said, we love to be a part of the community. When we first opened up, and again, other sites that we looked at, there were shared parking or parking was across the street, or what, parking wasn't the greatest at all the locations we looked at. This one, again, was perfect. Yeah. But thinking in my mind, hey, we're going to have 17 parking spots. I think that's good.
We know that's one of the big Google negative comments that we get on Google reviews is we don't have enough parking.
That's insane. You guys have so much parking.
What more do you
I'm amazed at how efficiently it's laid out, too. And parking is so fascinating here because you can park on any residential street as long as there's no parking sign and walk a block.
And the school cooperates as well. A lot of people don't know that. They're after hours, whether it's weekdays or weekends, the school allows people to park there.
They're incredible with that. Yeah. And people have caught on to that, luckily. And being part of the community is sharing that and not worrying so much. Like you said, if they're going to the yoga studio, their plan is probably to get some coffee afterwards or some tea.
And I've had yoga, people come in and say, hey, listen, I'm running late. Can I come back? Like I tell them, hey, that's fine.
Yeah.
I've had my car towed plenty of times. It sucks.
It's terrible, right? Yeah.
I had my truck towed in my own community because I left it out. I'm like, I pay the association. Why are you towing me?
What kind of community is that? That's rough. Yeah.
That's when I started looking.
That messes up your whole day.
It really does. It's really awful.
Yeah, we couldn't have that. Like, I couldn't mess up somebody's day like that on purpose, So
yeah,
that's one of the reasons why, along with everything else, it didn't make sense to have the no parking sign and tow away sign and this and that. At the end of the day, it works itself out. We have a lot of people that walk to our shop. Mm-hmm. They bike, they bring their kids. We're happy to be here and be contributing.
Yeah, we can't wait until they finally finish expanding the street and the crosswalks and being so walkable.
Yeah.
And this community is gonna just elevate everything else. So we're really excited for that kind of plan and that. I know the community and the businesses are kind of going back and forth. It's a major artery. They want to shut it down.
There's some proposed plans, funding that's allocated to it. I was
just about to say.
Right, and
it's probably not enough funding anymore because the new prices.
That's correct. And coming up in November, there is on the ballot a transportation tax. So anybody listening, vote yes on that because that
like a 1 cent tax?
Yeah, it is a 1 cent tax.
Yes, and it will help fund Corinne Drive, which is so needed. It's been so long overdue, and a lot of that was just ownership because Orange County owned it and didn't want to let it go to the city. And finally, that agreement has been made. So the city fully owns it.
Oh, wow.
Can make the changes. So that's why it's in such disrepair, because for so many years it was in limbo. So those details have been worked out. The city can do whatever it chooses to. And, part of it is to slow down traffic. And as you've seen with the crosswalk, it is a safe way for pedestrians to get across, which is key. It's absolutely key. And the bump outs for the curbs and then that middle island helps slow down traffic that's just passing through. So it's still 4 lanes, 2 on each side, but cars slow down a little bit and they don't even have to go over a speed bump or anything like that. It's just natural. That visual, yes, because these lanes are so wide and it doesn't need to be that way. So there will be some narrowing, some bike paths, like things that are going to make it safer for people to get around, and that will just increase customer traffic too.
I feel to see it. I feel actually safer crossing at that new crosswalk than actually crossing at Corinne Drive and Warner Park, to be quite honest with you.
Yes.
Because I do go to 1803, and we just partnered up with them, so I go pick up desserts from them or drop coffee off or whatever the case may be, and I'm just sitting there like, oh my God, I may just walk all the way down there just to cross.
Yes, it is so safe, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really, really does make a huge difference.
It does.
Yeah.
But, it's the community's getting there, I think, and we just love to see the changes.
We're excited. We're excited. We saw that video with the renderings and all that, and we were just like, wow, could you imagine what this could be?
Yeah, yeah.
In just a couple years' time.
Yeah, and luckily with it being 4 lanes, they can very easily do construction on one side of it and then have 2 lanes where it was, just one direction. So they won't ever have to shut the whole thing down at any point because they can always have through traffic. It's just going to slow things down for a little bit, but that's huge too for the businesses because you don't want to prevent anybody from accessing, because some construction projects it's just inevitable. But I think that we're pretty well positioned to where that would be minimized or eliminated. So I'm excited, and everybody vote yes on the transportation tax that lives in Orange County. Yeah, and any other partnerships in the works or that you are looking to work with?
We recently launched our coffee at the Ritz-Carlton Golf Club.
Oh, wow.
So if anybody's playing golf down there at the beautiful course.
Well done. That's awesome.
So we made a special blend for them for their espresso. So we partnered with them. 1803, we also partnered with them. We actually have their tiramisu. They actually use our coffee in their ladyfingers for their tiramisu.
I did not know that. Oh man,
fantastic!
Their
That's trouble.
brownie is delicious. It has like a nougat on top.
You
want to talk about calories?
I want to talk about the good calories like that.
That's
It's
worth
like,
it, right?
it's totally worth it. That's what it's about.
And we're always open. We've done beer collabs in the past, and we're both craft beer guys. So
Cool.
Hopefully, we got a couple more of those coming down the pipe.
Have you worked with Sideword yet?
Sideword,
They're so
I
great.
have not.
Yeah.
They do great stuff. My brother-in-law is always bringing me, but I hardly ever make it down here.
Yeah,
I got a 4-year-old, so
Well,
life's a bit.
I'll put the word out to Garrett
Awesome.
and Mandy and
I love
Austin.
it. I love it.
Yeah,
And,
they're incredible.
If they ever figure out what's happening with that hoods up across the street, I know a guy that might want to move on in there.
Seriously, I think everybody's watching
Right,
that
I
space. Yeah.
But no, yeah. So hopefully a couple more beers down the line, and just keep bringing you awesome coffee. We're getting ready to head to Central America for harvest season now. So this is usually the time of year where we go visit our farmers, our partners in Nicaragua. Last year we went to Costa Rica, but we couldn't really close anything. It turns out there's a big coffee company that owns about 60% of the farms in Costa Rica.
I think I've heard something about that. Wow.
Yeah. So,
But even so, we made some great connections.
Cool.
We met Remy, world champion barista and coffee master. He actually came up and he guest
did like
barista.
a celebrity barista day
Oh,
at the
wow.
shop. It was pretty cool.
So
Love that.
it was fantastic. Just picking his brain and seeing what he does, and he's just so open. So yeah, we have a couple things in the works. We're not ready to reveal
Sure.
or whatnot, but
Yeah.
because they're not set in stone right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're just partnering up with more people around the community, and absolutely, if anyone has a business or anything that deals with coffee, then by all means come by. We could talk, make a special blend for you guys. So we have a lot of options, but again, the community has been fantastic, and we just love being here.
One thing I would like to, and Tony would criticize me for this, we're from Miami.
Yeah.
I would like to have like a full-on Sunday brunch with like bottle sparklers and like bottomless mimosas. And
Yeah.
it's not gonna happen. Look at him rolling his eyes.
I mean,
But the weather's been great for it.
that's
I
such a
don't
good
know,
idea.
Right.
This neighborhood and your space is perfect for those things.
It's just
so
really hard to blend those
something to think about.
atmospheres sometimes because we have people that are they're working and studying and stuff. So,
But on a Sunday,
we would
nobody
do
should be
away with
working.
that.
They should be brunching, right?
yeah, you'd be surprised.
You'll be
Yeah.
surprised. I gotta
Wow.
pull a loudspeaker permit and you talk to the community. It's a Sunday.
Oh yeah, the people behind us
Oh,
love
yeah.
that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. They would love that.
It's just a running joke because I'm always like thinking like, yeah, we can do bottle sparklers, and Tony looks at me like, no.
Listen, we grew up in Miami. That's
Different
our,
life.
it's,
Yeah.
we're mind you, and I'm not sure we touched base on this. Both of us are UCF grads, and a little token of our appreciation of what UCF has done for us was that we've actually modeled our colors from our university. So that's probably why you see those black and gold. So
Yeah.
but yeah, Orlando's home now. I mean, Miami, we love Miami. It's a special place in our heart.
Yeah.
And he wants to bring a little piece of it over here every single time. But
Miami's
that's
much better as a tourist than it was when we were living there.
Is it? Yeah.
I have so much more fun now when I go back. Because
you're
I'm
working
staying
in
on the
paradise.
other side of the bridge.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
You're working in paradise, and there's also that.
It's easier when you're just visiting and
Yes.
you're not living in it and trying to make
Right.
it work, right?
Yeah,
It's
we've had friends that we met in Miami.
Uh-huh.
Like, oh my God, I moved down here because I came down for a vacation and it was so amazing, and I want to live this life. And then a year later, I'm moving out. This is terrible. Like, well, I mean, it's.
It
So-
kind of depends on where you're based, what kind of experience you have, right? And it does influence that.
He has a 4-year-old. I have an 18-month, and I am so waiting for the Bright Line to open, so we could just jump on the train and just go down to Miami or West Palm Beach or whatever.
That's gonna be huge.
Oh, it's gonna be
Yeah.
He hates the car seats, so
Uh-huh.
whatever I could do.
Well, and that drive it's not terribly long, but there are parts of it that are pretty awful. And just to be on a train, I'm excited about the future of transportation in Orlando. It feels like it's really far out, but I think in the next 10 years, like things are really, really going to change for the better. So I'm thrilled about that.
It's definitely an exciting city to be a part of. I mean, look at what's happening across the country, and places like Denver and Austin. I don't think we're not second to those guys. Like Truly. Our food scene here is amazing.
Truly,
we got a thriving university, a thriving technology industry. I'm lucky enough to work with small businesses day in and day out, and get to see all this new talent, all these new businesses opening up in Central Florida. It's amazing. So
what is your day job? I don't.
So I work for a large communication company. I'd rather not say.
Sure.
I'm sure they're listening right now.
I understand. They're always listening. That's the thing about communications, right? Yeah.
But I'm a business sales manager. I used to be a business sales rep and work door to door here prospecting, and now I manage a team of sales reps to do what I used to do.
Cool.
But yeah, we basically sell internet, phone, and TV service.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, things that are very needed.
Yeah. You don't got to explain to someone they need internet, right?
No,
it's
you
just
do
a
not.
matter of getting there first and really just having them take their time. So, I was lucky enough to, even local business owners here like Sonny down at Domu, like just to sit down with him and pick his brain before opening Lobos, and just having that hour and a half of just knowledge from one of the, greatest local chefs ever.
Yeah.
Was so valuable to me. So having that experience, having that know of, what areas work, what areas don't, because there are some locations where food and beverage goes to die here. You know what I mean? I mean, the guys that down at Gnarly Barley are doing a great job with that spot. And, we visited recently. We loved it. We had a great time. But, man, they're like the fourth or fifth restaurant to go in there. It's just like
a matter of years.
Right. That was one of the locations that we looked at, and I'm just like, Tony, I mean, maybe, but no, like it's not viable here.
And they were established, at another location.
Right. They had two other locations.
They had the bottle shop, and that they had that following the culture.
Yeah. But so did Seven Bites, right? So
That's
Seven
true.
Bites had a great following, and they do great quality. We talked about quality restaurants that just. So it takes a lot to make a business work. It takes a lot to have the location, the parking, and the product, and all that, and even just getting lucky with people liking it too. Because what I like, you may not, and it just takes one Google review to make people.
Hopefully not anymore.
No,
people need to take
that.
that with a grain of salt. It is.
Yeah, I never read them like I used to now. Like I used to screenshot them and Tony, what happened?
We're sunk. Look at this. No, that's not how that works.
I'm just like, sorry, we didn't have the right lid for your cup.
That's right.
We tried.
Yes. Yes.
So I think people need to be more considerate of that. Especially local businesses, just the damage that one bad review can do. Like I know they're not thinking about that when they typed it.
Yeah.
But I can really
simple as just come back, let us know, let's try to fix it. And if they don't want to, I understand, but I feel like that's not what we are at the shop. We give freedom and capability to all our staff members to fix it. So we're all human. We're not all perfect.
Yeah.
We'll make sure that we try to fix it for you.
And you have such a good customer service ethos in there. The times that I visited, I'm always well taken care of.
That's what we should.
Very attentive.
And honestly,
very
that
polite,
comes,
professional.
That comes to our staff.
Yeah.
That comes to our general manager, Beth. Again, we want to build that, place where you come in, people know your name. What is that show?
Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm blowing my millennials' minds right now. Cheers. What's it? Gen X show. The Gen Z is like, cheers. What? Like, cheers a beer now.
It holds up. It's still a good show.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we, just bring that vibe and saying hello and whatnot. So, but we do give them that ability to fix it. I have an issue if we didn't fix it.
Mm-hmm.
That's like what. Why didn't we do it?
You want the feedback so you can learn.
Correct.
What can we do better, and you're already doing so much that is so right on, and then but there's always room. There's always somebody that sees something and they're like, I don't know. Yeah. But your shop is always super clean, as you said. It's just
Thank you.
It's awesome. Yeah, it's really awesome what you guys do.
I do want to give a shout out to the guys at Tactical. They also helped us out a lot.
Cool.
You know, just starting up, it was probably a good year or two, and we sat down with them, and they kind of walked us through. Obviously, we're in the same market but different market.
Yeah. This is Tactical Brewing.
Tactical
Down in
Brewing.
Baldwin, yeah. Shout out to
Chris
Doug
and
Chris
Doug.
and
Yeah.
Cool.
You know, it's just the support that we've gotten from them and from other people as well. And if we forget anyone, we apologize. But you know, it like they say, it takes a village to raise a child. It also takes friends and family and a village to be able to open up a business. Like I said, it's not easy, especially in the service industry.
Yeah.
So it's been incredible. It's been a dream come true. It's been a whirlwind, good and bad.
Yeah.
I honestly laugh sometimes, Mike.
You got to. You got to.
I think about my first time meeting this guy. He's tall, lanky, guy running miles for PT or whatever CAP was making us do back then. They liked to torture us back then. It was like a military thing. We had to run together. And just to, that going to him bringing me the idea of Lobos to actually seeing the doors open, like, we're not supposed to be here. Like, this doesn't
wild,
happen to
right?
people from so I just sometimes like sit back and laugh, and I'm like, man, like, this is pretty cool that to have somebody tell me this is the best cold brew I've ever had is like, wow, like,
that's
we
what it's
did
about,
that, like,
right?
really?
Yeah.
Wow. Like, when we first launched our Fácil Tigre, which is we call it our draft latte, it's pretty much oat milk, a cold brew, and some other recipe secrets that we put together that is on tap. Nobody'd ever seen that. I love it. I drink that stuff by the gallon. And for people to tell me like, oh my God, what is this? Like, can I take it home? And I'm like, wow, like, you actually like something that we sat down and came up with and tested, and like, it paid off. You know what I mean? Like, all those hours that we were sitting there just like, well, this one needs more vanilla, or this one needs more this. And
messing up the recipe now. Give me the secrets.
Oh yeah, it's a surprise.
Surprise.
Anyway, but just the fact that we put in that effort, and then it's actually seeing it is beyond like, wow to me. Like, sometimes I'm just like, I can't believe we did it.
So the quick story: the first year in October, we changed it out.
This is changed it out. October 2021, or
October 2021. Yes.
Okay.
For that month, I'm like, let's try something different. Let's put what we call a calabaza spice. Let's try it. I may have had a mini revolt from the community. Like, do you have Fácil Tigre? Can you still make it? I'm like, this is never gonna happen again. I'm gonna keep this on, and I've never changed it. People have like, do you bottle it? Like, no, but we're gonna try. It's like, it's that popular. We go through a keg roughly 3 to 4 days, and we have to reproduce it. Actually, the nitro goes out before the Fácil Tigre. That stays on for maybe 2 days, max 3 days. Wow. So it's like he said,
it's
like,
hot here, so people like cold.
Yeah.
Cold brew.
Absolutely. I drink it year round, just about. So yeah.
You a cold brew guy?
I am.
Okay.
I mean, I can go either way, but if it's hot out, it's a hard sell to drink a hot coffee when it's hot out, for me, at least. Yeah.
It's like selling fire in hell.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I maybe should be, expanding from there, but I don't know. A great cold brew, that's where the magic is, right?
Make sure the staff knows that next time you're in there.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, especially in Florida, it's 8, 9, 10 months out of the year, it's muggy, and we get 2 months of just pleasant weather.
Mm-hmm.
So it's and we see it. Like, the first year, obviously we were open in December, and all of a sudden summer came around and it just flipped. Like, we had boxes of hot coffee and lids, and we started running out of the cold cups. Like, we need more. What happened?
Just that learning curve of just like, this is like a seasonal thing. I'm from Maine originally, and like, things start to shut down kind of in September, certain seasonal things. But you don't really have that here. Like, places just stay open because they can, but then you don't realize that, like, summers are sometimes pretty tough for a small business. So
but we just work through it, figure it out.
Right.
Like I said, if we don't, someone else will.
That's true.
And, but that also boggles my mind that just close down for a whole season, close down for 3 months, go home or go somewhere.
Can you imagine? I know.
We met a guy.
Yeah.
When we were in Costa Rica, we met a guy. He owned a coffee shop in Spain, was
Yeah,
it,
it
or
was
Portugal
Spain,
or something?
Wow.
And he's like, "Yeah, I shut it down for the summer," and I'm like, "So you can survive being open 4 months a year?
Wow,
Like, how
yeah.
do you do this?" And it's just complete culture.
Teach us that so we can have 4 months off or whatever.
It's completely cultural. I mean, good, more power to him. But
Yeah.
man,
That's a different
Figure that out.
way of life altogether,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, it's so cool to see childhood friends doing something like this too. Really invested in doing it right, and you seem to be having a pretty great time for the most part. I know
For the most part, we fight like cats and dogs, and
Sure.
we've been married for God knows, like 20 years.
But
probably.
that's part of a healthy relationship, right? Is like working
Yeah.
through this stuff. So
and I'm glad to have that because it's like
Yeah.
it's a balance. Like I'd be lying if I didn't say there weren't times I just threw my hands up in the air and say, "You know what, Tony, your name's on the building. Do what you want," right? And I like walk away.
Sure.
And he's been right on most of those. I'm not afraid to admit it.
And there's times where I would get his information and his ideas is like, let me think about this again. Let me see it from a different perspective because I don't have all the answers.
Sure.
And that's why I said like from when we opened or from when we started, just having one or two people in the mix to now having a team that you could really bounce off ideas and say, hey, does this really work? Or what do you guys think? Give us our feedback. We love our team. Bree, Jovan, Beth, Adam, those guys are just amazing.
Upset you're not mentioning. There's so many names.
Yeah.
So many.
and all the others, yes, the
and all
whole
the
team,
others,
Yeah.
and the shift leads and the supervisors, we actually get their ideas. Like I know for a fact I can't come up with all the ideas. The Facilitator wasn't our idea. It wasn't mine or his. It came from the team. And so same thing with the special drinks and seasonal drinks. Like,
And we love giving them that freedom too, like that
Yeah.
challenge of, hey, if something makes sense in your head, shout it out. Like we've had several drinks on our menu that were made by our team that I would have never thought of. I mean, Dylan recently made one called Brittany Beach, and it was like great.
That's so cool.
It was summer. It was fruity. I don't even know if it had coffee in it.
No,
but
it didn't. But
it was great.
It's
and
fantastic.
people loved it. It came with a little umbrella garnish, and it was nice. And it's just having that input, having that teamwork, of saying, hey, what else can we think of? What colors can we come up with, and things.
Yeah.
Just getting creative and giving them that freedom, I think, really bonds us a lot too.
That's the special thing about a small business is that you can do that. Like you can empower your employees, your team to have those ideas and bring them forth and know that you can just implement them. If they're working, they're working. And that's...
And they're on the front line, so they know
Right.
what customers are wanting, looking for, so on and so forth.
Sometimes customers like a surprise. Like,
Yeah.
hey, surprise. I've been here 3 times this week. I don't want a latte today. I want something different.
Yeah.
It's nice to have that freedom to be able to say, how's this taste, Mike? And if you don't like it, we'll make you something else. But hey, here's something new.
Yeah. And that creativity, right?
We had a customer, one of our local customers, his son wanted something a little different. He goes like, can you do something? And we ended up making a hibiscus lemonade.
Oh, nice.
We have it on the menu now.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's just, we've taken it to events.
Yeah.
It's just the pairing of those two, the marriage of those two is like, why not? It's not just why not, it's actually delicious.
Yeah.
It's just, again, you don't know where ideas or where they're going to strike. It doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are, what your background is. If it makes sense, it makes sense.
Yeah.
And if that's what people want to order, that's what people want to order. So yeah, we have a great team. From the beginnings to now and in the future, we give a lot of testament, a lot of credit to them because they're the ones on the front lines. They're the ones that are keeping the shop clean, organizing, making sure the guests are happy. I can't cook. I can't take orders. I can't roast. I can't make a drink. I can't make that all at the same time.
Right.
I can't. I have to rely on a team. And then they're fantastic.
And everybody has some level of ownership too. Like they really care about the outcomes. They care about the reputation of the place, the experience of the customer, and all of that really does show. Like it does make it so unique, and you do differentiate from other places that you can get coffee, and you are offering something that is unique and special, and I just thank you guys.
Yeah, I love to hear it.
No, thank you for all the warmth and the compliments, and hopefully 2 years is going to be for us, our anniversary December 2nd, and hopefully there'll be more to come after that. So
yeah, happy almost anniversary. That is
happy
very
almost
exciting.
Anniversary. Yeah,
Perfect time too. That time of year,
Yeah, last year we actually were literally working and went out on a coffee trip. I don't know if we'll fall again around that time. It's just the nature of the beast of what.
Yeah,
harvest
sourcing season is a mean beast in Central America. Like we said, we got to Costa Rica too late. Panama worked out for us, and Nicaragua is one of our stronger relationships too. So, but at the end of the day, like if you're late, all the good stuff's gone. You got to settle for what's left, and it can be challenging to find quality.
Yeah,
and we're not just going to bring anything in. So we want to make sure that what we do bring has a certain level of
absolutely.
grade.
Him saying that, we were thinking we were in Panama. We were trying this Pacamara, and literally we're sitting down. He's like, "Try this." Like, this is really good.
This is by Santos Cafe. We love him. Santos Cafe, great farmer out in Panama. And he's having a sample these great. He's like, this one won Best of Panama last year. We're like, yes. And like me and Tony are like, yes. I'm like, all right, well, we'll take 100 pounds of it. He's like, oh, I don't actually have that.
I only have this one. I'm like, that's not the one I want, bro.
Wow. You can't set me up like this. So,
that's heartbreaking.
Yeah. But, luckily, like he said, his father and his family have the relationship. They went to high school together. So this year, hopefully, we'll be bringing back some Santos Cafe from Panama, which is great coffee. I mean, Jansen will always be our key relationship in Panama, and our geisha, I feel like, will always come from Jansen. But there's just so much good coffee. You can't stick to just one farm,
Mm-hmm.
And we want to be able to bring that here. We want to be able to bring the best coffees of the world here and really put out that special cup that you can't get anywhere else. So I'm pretty sure we're one of the very few that have actual Panamanian geisha coffee, and not just Florida, but the U.S.
It's hard.
It's not easy to get your hands
It's hard.
on.
It's a very unique flavor profile. And again, these things could be expensive, but it's also economy of scale and who usually buys it. It's very similar. The Asian market loves it, and that market has been booming. The Chinese and the Japanese gobble a lot of the geisha up. The rest goes to Europe, Holland, and and those places that really have a big coffee culture. I think per capita, Denmark or Finland drink more coffee than anywhere in the United States. And then if anything's left, most likely it's sent to the port of LA to those buyers. So to have a relationship with a farm that does award-winning geisha,
that's huge.
It's a little feather in our cap. Again, there's a lot of other places that produce a lot of great stuff, and a lot of roasters also have it. We'll be roasting some geisha here pretty soon for the holiday season, so everyone could purchase it for the holidays. It's really a special cup. For me, for instance, pound for pound, either Nicaragua or Papua New Guinea as an everyday. But like a geisha, if I have someone coming over, or I want to have a dinner, and then I want to do something, like that's kind of when I
really
make
special.
it. So it's kind of something.
And what a story behind it too, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was it almost an endangered species kind of thing because it wasn't so popular.
Correct.
I know
People were
that
ripping
plants
it out.
can be that way, right?
Well, yeah, the yield per plant is a lot less.
Yeah.
And if you don't roast it properly, like the roasting of geisha is so sensitive. If you don't have the right profile on it, you'll burn all the florals right off of it. So you really want to, to shine, you really want to understand it and have it down packed. Like our first roast of geisha was not perfect. We studied it, we took it back.
Some trial and error, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's expensive trial and error.
Yeah, wow.
It's not.
That really encourages you to figure it out quickly, right?
Right.
It does. Listen, we sell a bag of geisha from Jensen Family Farms of a half pound for $55. Most bags you could probably get, even at our shop, it's half pound is $16, $17, $18. So it's quite a leap.
Yeah.
To buy this coffee.
And there's a reason behind it, a very specific reason.
Correct.
Yeah.
We try to put it at a price point per cup, which is not that's attainable. I think we charge like $9 when we have it available. So people come in and really try it, and some people are just fanatics for it, and they want to buy it because they want to have it.
Yeah.
But like in everything, you could go to a steakhouse and have a dry aged ribeye. For me personally, that's not my favorite cut. I like a New York strip or filet mignon or a bone-in filet. So to each his own, right?
Yeah.
But still, there's a reasoning why that ribeye is so expensive, and the dry aging and whatnot. And so there are people that will love this coffee, and then some people will be like, "Oh, it's okay. I'd rather have X coffee."
Sure.
And
But
that's
it's still
something
very
that we
special.
had to fight too, because in Miami, coffee culture is way different, right? It's your Cuban coffee. It's your 3 teaspoons of sugar. You whip it up, and some milk and really, really burnt dark espresso.
Yeah.
And just
which is nice too in its own way.
It has
Like
its
Black
time
Bean
and place.
Deli does a really good Cuban coffee.
It's so good.
right?
Yeah, it's great. And I like to think we have a good one too, but it's just not that specialty realm of. There's no reason I have to go to Panama to find it. Like we can reproduce that here, whether it's our Colombia or something else. So I think for us stepping into that specialty coffee world where coffee stops tasting like your traditional cup of coffee is just training our audience for that, to expect like, yeah, we can whip up dark, tar for you if that's what you like, but we have the specialty, 86 and up want to enjoy on its own. So it's a broad spectrum of where we can go.
And then we're getting into a little bit of coffee. We're in tune as humans to look for certain tastes and profiles because of our ancestors. We had strawberries, we had blueberries, and back in the day when people were eating and they didn't know what they were eating, if you had a blueberry and you didn't die, well, that's going to be cemented in your brain.
Yeah.
So the Ethiopia tastes like blueberries, for instance, right? So when you have that sense and that smell and it's just roasted right and you have those tastes, that's what really gravitates towards it. Again, not knocking Maxwell House or any other big roasters, but they roast it to a certain point that's consistent, that you could get your caffeine.
Yeah.
That's not our job. Our job is specialty, to make sure that we get those essence of those coffees. You're not going to
those fruity flavors.
correct.
Yeah.
You're not like Ethiopia. You're going to get those blueberries. Nicaragua is going to be completely different. No matter how you roast it, you're never going to get those notes from that region of the world.
Or if you don't have the right elevation, the right climate, just so much has to happen to get that.
Yeah.
And
It's
those-
rare for a reason.
It's like with produce and with berries and things, like certain things out of season that you're still getting, or if they travel further and their origin, it's like it can make a big difference, and,
And
it's
that-
very
that's what
It's a
obvious.
sore spot, yes. It's just again, we have food, and one of our not, I want to say claim to fame, but one of our popular items, I want to say, avocado toast. And people
I love avocado toast.
Yes, but like you just said, it's not always in season. So
No, that's
we
true.
have
Yeah.
it on the menu, and then sometimes when we don't have them, or when they're not ripe, or how can you not have avocado toast? Like I didn't produce avocado toast.
We
It's a
want it to
rock.
be good, and it's not good right now.
Yeah.
And it's not our
Avocados
fault.
are really
It's-
tricky.
Yeah.
And that's you mentioned, where you grow and stuff like that's what makes the Panamanian geisha so special too, because the soil is so rich because of volcanic ash that millions and millions of years to have fertilized this ground, that you can take the same plant and grow it in Colombia, grow it in Guatemala, Nicaragua, wherever, same altitude, and it's still not going to give you that same quality.
Yeah.
Because the nutrients on the ground, the weather, and with Volcan or Boquete or some of these towns that are around this volcano, it's perfect. Like it's raining, but you can't feel the rain because it's just like a dew.
mist.
It's
Yeah.
and
It's very similar how I like to describe it to wine, right? Napa Valley has that elevation, has the climate, just that,
The terroir.
Yeah, correct.
Right,
It's exactly France and other, like South Africa, they have certain regions that are just primed to grow these items, right? That's where kind of like the specialty coffee comes from. You gotta, and you asked us, do we produce coffee over grandma's farm? We're not at that elevation. We're not there to produce the quality that we want. We would love to.
Yeah.
At today's standards.
Right. Yeah.
But, after a couple of years,
other places are able to do it at the quality and the level that you want, and that's where that comes from.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Correct. So it's again, it's a world on its own.
Yeah.
This idea of Lobos started years for me, and it's one of those things when you start getting into it. He started getting into it. Oh, I'll get an espresso machine. Oh, Chemex, French press, blah, 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 blah.
Now I'm just like, am I putting 50 grams of water or 80 grams of water? I'm just like, wait, I hit the 30-second mark. I need some,
It is.
It's crazy how it grows on you.
Well, and you've been to the places where it comes from, too. And, that level of connection that tells such a cool story. And that's the kind of stuff that I'm so excited to do this podcast and share this with the world and the neighborhood. And just I did not know those things. I knew there was a Panamanian connection, but the fact that you are actually going and brokering these deals, and you're visiting the farms and being at the origin of these beans, that you have that level of understanding, and you're tasting their roast, and getting their ideas, and nobody knows better than they do. So you're learning from the best spots.
And it's responsibly grown too, because you see the community that just thrives off of just coffee. That's their whole economy.
Fair trade, people are being treated equitably. And
our partner in Nicaragua, Jaime, great man. He was the mayor of one town that he was in, La Dalia in Matagalpa, for those of you familiar, and was elected mayor of 3 more towns because it's just so much good. His wife builds schools. We'll show up with a luggage full of just toys for the school teacher. We brought them a speaker phone, just little things that, not to say we take for granted here in the United States, but are so easily accessible. When you go somewhere like Nicaragua and you literally see what poor can be, the smallest things that we can do to help and give back to them, it makes us feel so good to go back there and see our partner. We're driving around in the truck with him through town, and people are literally screaming at him "Hi, Theo." Theo means uncle, because the whole town, they call him Uncle Jaime. And it's just amazing to see the love that this town has for him, and it's because of all he gives back. He has a coffee farm, but there's several other coffee farms there, right? And he works to help sell all of their coffees together, and it comes back in the form of better roads, houses for teachers,
education,
just little things like that we have here so accessible, and people kind of turn away from, and over there they do anything to get their hands on some of it, so it's nice. It's really nice to go back there and see the impact that the coffee industry has in a place like Nicaragua, to say.
What a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's a cool town too. I mean, it's a cool country. We ate great food. My wife's grandfather lives there, so that's how we got that connection. And,
cool.
Lucky enough, we spent a couple good days there. Last time we were there, I got to show Tony, because I had been going by myself for years, even before Lobos opened. I just had been going to, visit my wife's grandfather, and I met Jaime on one of those trips, and kind of at the same time that he was bringing Lobos to fruition.
Just meant to be, all of these things, right?
That's crazy.
I remember that kind of, wait, what? You want to open a coffee shop?
And I was like, wait, I just met a coffee farmer. Whoa, I wonder why that happened. And then our first shipment was, it wasn't small for the average person. It was small for a coffee shop because it was already December, and we didn't want to buy too much coffee. We wanted to make sure we got the fresh harvest that year and so forth. So, it's 2,760 pound bags of coffee, and Tony just conveniently had to be out of town that day. So it was me.
I knew this one was going to butt
another buddy, and
that does sound like a lot to move and store and separate and process, right?
Yeah, so it was a good workout. But now we kind of got it down to a more simple process. So, we were able to double our initial shipment the second time, or more than double it actually. So, it shows our growth, and
that's awesome.
Gives us that more solid relationship. Now, if only the commodity prices would come down a little bit.
The coffee price doubled on that.
And the coffee
Almost
and the
tripled.
actual bean prices doubled too. So it's all things you gotta
Yeah.
work around.
And the average consumer doesn't understand those inputs, and
we absorbed
again,
a lot
it's
of
like,
it too.
Sure,
we
yeah.
absorbed as much of it as we could, because we
You don't want
understand
to
right.
scare people away by
Yeah. Coffee, really, like analysts in the business say that it should actually be worth and it be more expensive.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hands in the cookie jar from exporters from over there, importers over here, roasters, growers. There's hundreds of thousands of hands that actually touch that coffee before the end user has it in their hands. But that's why we made that conscious decision right from the beginning and said, okay, let's try to, we can't do them all ourselves, but let's start building as a day one, start building relationships. So, once we hopefully get to where we want to be, that will be going directly to the market or directly to the farmers ourselves, and shaking hands and kissing those babies and saying hello to everyone, to be able to import. Again, we work with a great importer as well now, that brings stuff from literally across the world, from Papua New Guinea to our Ethiopia, to say the least. And again, we have one shop. We're not there yet, but hopefully in the future, that's what is in our core DNA that we want to bring here to other stores that we, possibly hoping in the future.
Are you roasting at capacity right now? Are you basically or is there room to grow with the roasting operation that you have?
There is room to grow.
Okay.
Unlike some other coffee shops that open one every week, that's going to be impossible to do at our shop. But for what we have in our wholesale accounts, we've already sat down and done numbers and know what our capacity is. And in the future, what kind of warehouse we want, to how many stores we could support, to how many wholesale accounts we could do. And we want to be able to cap that and then say, okay, well, do we get to a certain level where we now do another roaster or whatnot? So that's the goal, to make sure that we keep that quality. That's the idea.
Yeah.
We're only roasting 1 or 2 days a week right now, though.
Okay.
Summertime,
for whole days. So.
Yeah.
Usually during the winter, we roast more. During the summers, obviously, we roast
Can
less.
you smell it this far down the block? We walked towards the school when we were first opening.
I've
roast
had-
and see how far you can smell it.
Yeah, I
Can you
haven't
test this
noticed
way?
it from here, but as you get closer,
That's
for
great.
sure.
I love that.
I actually had
Yeah.
I had a guest come in, was mad. I've smelled you guys roasting. I had to pull over and have a coffee. I'm like, okay.
Poor guy. I mean, if that's his worst problem that day.
Yeah, it was
Wow,
it was really
indeed.
funny because he came in really upset, but he was joking.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just to give you a little tidbit. We analyzed. Smell has, out of your 5 senses, is the only one that passes or bypasses your logic system. So, for example, if you go in, for me, I remember walking into a store that we were looking at to buy some seating and whatnot, and I smelled a certain wood, and it transcended me or put me back into my grandmother's place down in Panama.
Yeah.
Now, it reminded me of it, but I knew logically I wasn't there.
Right.
So smell is very, very powerful, hence why we roast. I remember as kids, their parents making coffee and having that smell, and it's a wonderful smell. Now it's very potent when you're roasting it, but when it's degassing, you open it up, and I've had wholesale accounts come in like, all right, let me show you something. I just open it up, and that whiff of coffee, Nicaragua has the best smell out of all the coffees we have.
Wow.
For whatever reason.
Has that chocolatey note.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness, it's just like literally people are just like they're moving their mouth like they're eating it, and
It's like a
just,
coffee guy's coffee. Like it's a coffee.
Yeah.
It's not like
Yes.
the berries or like the florals
No.
or stuff. But it's just like a solid. Like you can make it on espresso. You can make it drip. You can blend it. It's just a solid workhorse coffee.
I have to experience that. What days do you roast lately?
So usually we vary depending on the volume of business and what we do, but usually it's either Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday.
Okay.
those are the days that we kind of roast, and it could vary.
Do you roast during business hours, or is
We
it?
do.
You do.
We
That's
do.
awesome.
We do.
That's really
It's
cool.
hard to during the summer because it gets really hot in there.
Yeah.
So we added tents, and we try to do it early in the day so it's not so, because it can get pretty heated in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, usually Monday, Tuesday mornings is that it.
People come in and it's one of those things that if you smell it, it's a sub, like, oh, I could probably pick up a coffee. It's the whole. I need a coffee. I need something to wake
I
me up.
am powerless to this coffee,
Yeah.
and I will admit it. Yeah.
So it's twofold, but it's a beautiful smell. When you taste it, I actually don't have a lot of breakfast or don't eat breakfast until I get to the shop, and I just have a coffee. And professionals say you actually shouldn't drink coffee right when you wake up. It has more effect an hour or two into your day. So that's usually what I do, and I can actually feel it just moving in my brain, the caffeine hitting. All of a sudden I could take on the world. Everything's bright. I have no bills, nothing. And when it goes away, I'm like, oh man.
It is the best drug, isn't it? And it's
It
not
is a drug.
that bad for you.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, my doctor's like, you can still drink coffee, and very grateful for that.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things that I'm not sure if it's not worth living. Nice piece of steak, at least on my part. Great cup of joe, great cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And,
Friendship,
friendship,
community.
There you go.
Absolutely.
to share with.
Yeah.
And there's no point of doing all this if I can't share it, especially with my best friend, for instance.
Yeah.
The highs, the lows, the good, the bad. That's, I feel like I have a really tight-knit friendships and family that I could really confide and trust in. So to do it with, obviously my best friend, that's pretty much my brother at this point in time. He knows me more than anybody else. It's great because I want to be able to, if this is able to take off and we're able to grow the company, that I could do it with the people that really trust in me, and I take that to heart.
Yeah. It makes it sustainable. I mean, that's what you need. As you said, takes a village, and
Right.
this is like your baby, right? I mean, it really kind of is. It has all of these things, and it grows, and it becomes a fully formed thing, and it is doing that. It has done that, and
Hopefully we can keep it going, with the support of the community and our partners and our team. Hopefully, we'll be a staple here for years to come.
That's the
Looking forward to it. But Mike, we can talk your ear off all night.
yeah.
It's
this is
gotta be your
amazing. I know we've
longest
gone over
episode.
2 hours. I love this again.
You're gonna have to chop
Seriously.
it
Got
out.
a bottle of whiskey soon here or something.
Hey,
It's not a bad idea.
Right.
Is that the next step? Are you going to carry alcohol at some point? You
I
think, spirits?
don't think so.
Yeah.
It with the school and the church being so close, getting beer and wine was
Sure.
a mission on its own, and again, something we didn't. Us two rookies at this didn't consider.
Yeah.
So we were lucky enough to
the
have
blue
the blessing
laws.
of the,
They have
right.
to basically get permission, and the
Right.
church is really cool about that. I know, like
they
Red
were
Light had to go
awesome.
through the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and the school was too. So
great.
we were lucky enough, Jen down at Audubon Park put us in touch with them when we were building out, and we couldn't ask for a better partnership. They literally vouched for us to the city and said we don't have a problem with this ourselves. So, I mean, we imagine with other establishments around the area,
Yeah.
you could do worse than, I don't think that a 4 COP is in our future, at least not in this location. It kind of just, you got to know where to draw your line.
Yeah.
Bottle sparklers is where we draw ours.
Well, I can't wait for those. I
it's
will be
like
there.
a lot higher than mine.
But no, we can talk your ear off all night. So
Yeah. Well, I think we've done it, and again, I can't thank you enough, and keep doing the great work that you're doing, and I know that the customers will be there to support as they do in the community.
Thank you. And then belated happy birthday.
Thank you.
Pass by anytime.
Yes.
You've
made a regular customer out of me. I mean, after that cup yesterday and talking to you both, I have a another spot that I'm going to go to all the time for coffee.
I like it. I like it. Stardust is great.
It is great, right?
They were really, really one of our first coffee shops in this area that we would go there and just work out of, and it's a great vibe. They do whiskey there, so that's
right.
So it's a whole different. Like
they've got that covered. Yeah,
everybody brings their own specialty to it. So we found our niche, I think, and we just want to make what we do better, get better at what we do first.
Yeah, and I love that you do have like nighttime hours as well. What are your daily operating hours?
It's Monday through Thursday from 6:30 to 9. Fridays from 6:30 to 10. On Saturday 7 to 10, and on Sunday from 7 to 8. Holidays and whatnot, there will be modified hours.
Yeah.
We want to take care of our staff and go home early and whatnot to celebrate the holidays. But primarily, those are the hours that we have during the week, and usually is what we have.
Yeah.
We will be closed Christmas Day, and then some other days we'll do like half days.
I think my first day going in was maybe July 4th. Because Stardust was closed, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go check these guys out.
We'll take it.
there are some businesses that they close on certain days, and like, why are we so busy on this random day? And then we realize,
nobody else.
Closed. Yeah, no one's open.
And that's okay. I'll take it. We know. I mean, I've heard your show, and Stardust, I know, was one of the first coffee shops you went to. We can never be your first, but
right.
But just to be mentioned in the same sentence is an honor to us, because like you said, these are staples. We recently won Best of Orlando for Best Local Coffee Roaster. We got voted third place, and my initial reaction to Tony was like, should we be celebrating third place? But then you look at the list of who's in first and who's in second, you're like, wow, like, all right, like, we're doing something, so.
Top three, that is something, because Orlando's a big place.
Yeah, and it's growing, and hopefully we can, stay on the list. There's more competition this year, so we got to do a better job of getting quality out there. And I think we're doing that, so.
Yeah,
we're testing more, we're learning more, we're getting better, I think. A lot of people think Lobos is like this huge conglomerate coffee company.
Yeah, you guys do it
just
so
me
well.
And Tony.
I mean, it's
like just you guys.
Slanging coffee out the trunk of the car. That's it.
It's like the Wizard of Oz thing, right? I mean, you do have this really. I mean, it is so well put together. It does look like something that has been reproduced, or has some huge backing to it. It's just you guys are doing it right. Mm-hmm. And what is the website that people go to visit you? I know you do a lot of online sales stuff now, too.
Yes.
LobosCoffeeRoasters.com or LobosCoffee.com. On Instagram, Facebook, Lobos Coffee Roasters.
And our website, you can find all the more locations that you can find us at as well.
Very cool.
We also ship nationwide.
Yeah, we also do shipping. And then you'll probably see us doing a couple more events down the pipeline, either off-site or on-site. That's our goal, to expand a little bit more. And
that's a great way to get out there, right? I mean, especially this time of year when it's nicer to be outside.
We were recently at Lou Gardens for their jazz festival, and the weather was just perfect, and saw so many people there that gave us compliments about the shop. And
cool.
It was nice to have that extended arm that we can, have an event down the street and people see us there if they haven't been, had a chance to come by and stuff. So
and it's right in the neighborhood. Lou Gardens, Botanical. I mean, it's incredible what they have there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah. And, what a partner to have for an event. Like,
it is.
That's very cool.
We've been invited back. Thank you, Tracy, the director, for, I believe, their plant sale, hopefully. So
that'll be huge.
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll be able to do some other events. I know they're going through a transition and trying to figure some stuff out, but we'll be here, and whatever they need or whatever support they need and whatever support the community needs, they supported us, so we're so grateful for.
Well, you guys, thank you so much for taking the time.
No, thank you for inviting us and
totally
and talking to us and sharing our stories. So we greatly appreciate it.
For sure. We'll talk to you guys soon. Hello APGD, a neighborhood podcast, is brought to you in part by Stardust Video and Coffee, Audubon Park's beloved neighborhood cafe, bakery, bar and meeting place, located at 1842 East Winter Park Road. We're also sponsored by Red Light Brew Pub. Founded in 2005, Red Light is widely known as the source for world-class imports and microbrews. A wide selection of natural wines, plus award-winning beers brewed in-house. A full kitchen is in the works with an amazing menu by Chef Jess Tantalo. Located at 2810 Corinne Drive, please check out Red Light for all things beer and wine and soon food. Our theme song is by Christopher Pierce, and special thanks to Trey Hester for all of his help in making this podcast a reality. We do hope you enjoyed this episode. If so, please click subscribe and leave a review if you'd like. We'll see you next time.